Well, hey everybody, and welcome. Thanks so much for taking a few minutes to join us for our leadership podcast. Every month we take a little bit of time to just consider how we can grow our leadership, how we could grow our groups, our teams, how we can increase our capacity and our efficiencies at work or through our service in the community or in our local churches. Today I want to talk to you about the idea of pushing for a desired outcome. How do we lead in such a way to get a desired outcome? How do we live in such a way? How do we direct our faith in such a way? How do we enter into relationship in such a way that it actually produces what it is we're hoping for, what it is that we're wanting? As I was thinking about this, I couldn't help but think about highlight reels. You know, at the end of every year, the end of every sports season, they always come out with their highlight reels. This time of year, students are cutting together their highlight reels to send off to recruiters and to schools and things like that. And I was thinking about what are some of the biggest highlights for me that where I feel like God has been speaking to me. And one of those passages was in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verses 16 through 18. It's a very, very familiar bit of scripture. And it says, "Always be joyful, never stop praying, be thankful in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you who belong to Jesus Christ." And particularly that last verse, I think is helpful because it says be thankful in every circumstance. So maybe today you're facing a problem in a relationship on your team. Maybe you're facing a gap, a personnel gap, a time gap, a resource gap, whatever it is. And the idea is that God is inviting us, particularly Paul is inviting the church to be thankful in advance, to be ready to praise God because of what he's done in the past, because of who we know he is, to sort of right now begin to find joy, to right now begin to place our hope and our dependency on God. And even before we know how everything is going to sort of work itself out, even now we're already giving him thanks for what he's done in the past, for sure, but also what we're confident, what we're believing he wants to do in the future. I was kind of kicking around this idea with Pastor Shannon, who is our associate pastor here at the Well, one of our associates. And Shannon and I have this shared love for Philadelphia. I grew up as a kid in Germany, and my dad's and mine home states don't have professional football teams. And so as a kid, I grew up playing on a soccer club that were the Eagles, and so I just had an affinity for teams that were the Eagles, and found the Philadelphia Eagles when I was really, really young. And shortly after that was the year that they went to the Super Bowl and played the Raiders, who, if you don't love the Lord, they're probably your team. Or if you do love the Raiders, it probably means you don't actually love the Lord. And so Shannon and I just have this shared affinity for all things Eagles. Eagles are I love the Bears. For those of you who know, I'm in Chicagoland. I love the Bears, but they're always sort of second fiddle to my affection for the Eagles. But I also am a huge Phillies fan. And Shannon was reminding me about a story from a couple years ago in the major leagues. There was a player on the Phillies named Trey Turner who was having a career-ending season. He was having a terrible time with his bat. He was having all kinds of errors in the field. And that kind of hit its crescendo when they were playing against Miami, and Trey went 0-5 in a game, and his batting average dropped to the lowest it had ever been since he entered the majors, to 237. And what was worse, in that same game, he made a defensive error, an unforced error that actually cost them the game. Well, for those of you who know anything about Philly fans, Philadelphia fans, we are we are known to sort of devour our own. We boo people. When I was a kid, I'll never forget watching an Eagles game. We literally booed Santa off our field. So we're not known to be a people of grace when it comes to our sport icons, when it comes to our sport heroes. And the Philly fans were being merciless with Trey. Every time he stepped out, they were booing him. Every time he made a mistake, they were booing him. There's a radio personality and an internet personality in Philly who's known as the Philly captain. His name is John McCann. And John did something very uncharacteristic for a Philly native. He actually started off with a reel on Instagram and then talked about it in his podcast. He said, hey, this weekend when Trey comes out to bat, let's not boo him. Let's give him a standing ovation. So the very next game, that's what they did. When Trey stepped out of the dugout, the bleachers stood to their feet and just roared in applause before he had ever done anything. Well, Trey stepped to the plate and he got a single RBI single, and it was like the whole stadium went quiet for just a moment and then erupted again. It was, and everyone wondered, is that really sort of the end of the curse? Is that the end of what's going on, the end of the struggle? The next day he came up and actually hit another huge hit way deep into the bleachers between middle and left field. And really just that entire weekend, every time he came out on the field, the fans just exploded in adulation before he ever had a chance to do anything. And he responded. He stepped up. It was like the Philly fans saved Trey Turner's career, because rather than sort of living in the reality of what they were dealing with, and I'm not saying we shouldn't be honest or sincere about what's going on in our life, but in anticipation, they chose to live at the place of their highest hope, and it turned everything around. What was really cool is over the next couple of weeks, Trey actually bought, it was either 2 or 3 billboards around Philadelphia, literally thanking the fans, acknowledging that their confidence, their hope, their praise, their thanks was a big factor in him being able to get back into a rhythm, to get back into a good headspace, and he thanked them. And actually, there is a really cool little short movie about that season and about this radical transformation that happened in Trey Turner's year and in his season. It's called The Turnaround, and I would encourage you to watch it. But it also gives us kind of a really great example of the idea of what we mean when we say that we should every day, no matter what our circumstances, we should live, we should believe, we should pray like the outcome that we are working on, that we're working towards, is actually going to happen. So let me just sort of lean into that idea of living and believing and praying and working for just a moment. So when we live, we're talking about the way we structure our time. We're talking about the way we structure our calendar, the way we structure our relationships. So we're actually being intentional about the way we live our lives, the way we live out our careers, the way we're living out our education, the way we're living out our leadership. That we live it in anticipation of what it is we're trying to see become a reality, the fruit of our lives that we're wanting to see manifested. When we talk about that idea of believing, we're talking about changing our thought patterns. We're talking about changing our speech patterns. We're talking about speaking and thinking every day, all the time, as though that thing that we're trying to accomplish, that thing that we're trying to achieve, that thing that we're trying to, that place that we're trying to get to, that it is attainable, that it's reachable. We're not in our heads playing those doom loops. We're not with our words constantly tearing down at the very thing that we are hoping to build or to breathe life into. But we're also praying. We understand that the outcome is ultimately a thing that the Lord is going to do, and we are fully dependent on Him. So because of that, we are actively praying. Years ago, I heard a quote, and I don't remember exactly who it was from, but the idea was that you could tell what a person's core base beliefs were by what they prayed. You could tell the things that people really cared about, the things that were really important to people by the way they pray. And so if there's something you're trying to achieve through your team, through your group, through your family, through your faith right now, then make it a matter of daily prayer. Every time you think of that, rather than allowing yourself to worry or have anxiety, carry that thing over and over and over to the Lord and invite His joy into that situation and give Him thanks and praise in advance for that thing that He's going to do in your life. But the last thing is work. We have to work our tails off if we're going to see the kinds of God-sized goals and outcomes in our lives, in our teams, in our churches, in our careers. And so we understand that even though we're trusting God for a final outcome, we're not going to be passive in our own lives. We're not going to be passive in our marriages. We're not going to be passive in our groups and teams. That we're going to get up and work every day. Like if we really worked, if we really believed, if we really lived and ordered our life in such a way that the outcome that we're hoping for, it really could be brought about through the work and the grace of God in our lives. And with that said, let me just ask you this question. How would you live? Really, how would you live? How would you speak and believe? What would be the depth of your confidence, of your convictions? How would you pray? How would you work if you really believed that the thing that you're hoping for, the thing that you want, was something that God was going to bring about through your life? And then live that way, believe that way, pray that way, work that way. So I hope that challenges you. I hope that inspires you. I hope it encourages you. You might be just like Trey Turner, finding yourself in the worst slump of your life, a career ending, a marriage ending, a faith ending moment in your life. But I want you to know that God has good things in store, and He still has the capacity to work everything together for the good of those who love Him and are ordering their life according to His purposes and His word. Well, thanks so much for taking a couple minutes just to reflect on that leadership thought, idea, principle. I hope that it helps. If you have any question, you can always reach out to me at jerry@cometothewell.org. You can reach us at the office on the phone at 630-262-1083. And if there's ever anything we can do to help you, we would love to get to do that. And if you really want some inspiration, jump onto Netflix and watch The Turnaround for yourself. God bless.